Hi, Sandra here, and I'm back with another process video. This is a 2-page layout, and I'll be using a mixture of cardstock and other products. I'll list everything below. That dark green cardstock I'll be using as base. What I'm putting on top of here might have a little weight to it, and one of the pages, the one that I'm holding right now with the mountains, that is very light paper. It was in my stash. I'm not sure who made it. The dark green cardstock will make a nice border or frame around my layout. It'll also, as I said, act for a nice base for this layout. I actually have a plan in my head this round, and I'm going to do my best to stick with it. Okay, I stick with it. I know what happens here. Okay? Anyway, I chose the 2 background papers because I wanted something that I could use to play with my photos. Something that I could use little embellishments with. And I also didn't want to feel like I had to layer this time. I have such beautiful background paper. I want the pictures to stand pretty much on their own. Anyway, you get the gist of what I'm doing here. I'm cropping my photos, crop, and I am just too excited about what happens next. I'm going to turn my cardstock upside down. Yes, upside down. Isn't that neat? Anyway, the reason why is because when I saw the paper on the right and how the water from the sand just looks like it's backing up into the ocean, I thought this is perfect for this layout. And that brush, it's, what is it? So it's not a brush, it's a roller. It's a natural sea sponge roller. And it's so neat because it has so much texture to it that when you put the paint on it and then you roll it on your wall, or you, in this case, I'm rolling it on my paper, it gives it that same sea sponge kind of texture. The page on the right, I'm going to roll from the bottom up, from the sky up toward the water. And the paper on the left, I'm going to go from the top down. I wanted to do it a little different because the pictures aren't going to all go straight across the side. I let this dry overnight because it's very thick and it has a lot of texture and it's just beautiful. When I looked at it in the morning, I was so happy. If you had seen me, I'd be jumping up and down like a little kid. So who would have thought scrapbooking can make anyone this happy? Anyway, I cut out a picture of my daughter from one picture. I did that because I love the face that she's making. She's always making faces. And in the original picture, there were people behind her and it looked like they were all sticking out of her head. So I cut them out and put her on top of another picture that had people in it I didn't know, and I could sit her in the water like she's floating there. So I thought it looked pretty neat. So the paint that I used is a water-based paint, blue, with gel medium. And I love putting gel medium in the paint because it makes it nice and thick, like whipped cream, and who doesn't like whipped cream? But I also felt like it added to the texture of the sea sponge. So it made it stand up more. Like if I had used just a water-based paint, no gel medium, it may have just laid flat on my cardstock, which would have been fine. But I wanted it to have some body and to look almost like waves. And it kind of has that effect. It looks pretty neat. So as you can see, my mat is very thin. It's a 3-tier mat, but it's very thin, and that is because I just wanted enough to help the picture stand up against the background that it will be placed on. Anyway, this paint didn't have to stay overnight to dry. In a few hours it was dry and it seemed to be more than ready to work with, maybe even sooner. But I decided to wait overnight and I continued to prop my photos and do my journaling and that kind of thing, and then just let everything wait till the next day. This yellow tape. It's like a frog tape that you use if you're painting your house or whatever. And on the one on the left, it nicked the corners, not the tape, but I probably should have laid it down differently because this tape is really, really good. And anyway, but it came off pretty easy, even though I painted over the tape. Because sometimes when I try things with paint and I paint over the tape, my biggest concern is that it's going to rip up my paper. And that's why I kind of switched to using this frog tape, because that normally does not happen. Anyway, I'm still excited, even though I'm doing the voiceover and I know how this turns out. I For whatever reason, I had way too much fun doing this. And maybe it's just that I tried something new. It's a new toy. I won't run it into the ground making videos using it, but it'll pop up sooner or later. Uh, but the effect of how it looks against the paper was just awesome. So this whole layout probably took about 30 minutes, not including the drying time for the paint. Though I probably could have used like a dryer, like a blow dryer or whatever, to dry the paint. But I don't know. I was a little concerned because of the thickness that it might melt or run or change the texture of it, and I didn't want that to happen. But what I like about the layout, let's say I did nothing else to this, but put my pictures down and add some journaling, and there's absolutely nothing else that I really need to do to this layout to say it's done. And that was another thing that I liked about using the paint, is that it really gave uh, the layout a finished look. I probably could have gotten away without putting a base underneath the layouts, because the paint is actually light in weight. But I really like the way the green border looks around the layout, so I left it there. Also, I trimmed it off, so it's not quite 12 by 12, and when it goes in my scrapbook, you would be able to see the difference as you go through the different pages. And it's probably not a big deal, but you know, it's that tiny little thing that your eye might catch, and it might, I don't know, it would throw me off. Anyway, I did my journaling on a small card, and it talks about how Bella really wanted to go into the water, but it was rough and choppy, and so and she never goes to the beach without going in the water, no matter what the water's like. So she asked her dad to take her out, and they went out several times. One of the things that really excited me about this layout, or made me excited, was that I felt like everything that went into the page helped tell the story. And, you know, I wasn't randomly putting anything on the page. And sometimes I'll put something there because it's cute. Maybe it doesn't necessarily help tell the story, but I like the embellishment, or I like the paper, or whatever it is, I like it. It's going on there, and I'm going to still be happy with it, even though it may not help tell the story. But in this particular case, I just felt like everything helped tell the story. And that made me feel, well, it made me feel great, because it was like, this is so cool. Sometimes when I scrapbook, it's not that I'm not thinking about the story, I'm just more focused on what the layout is going to look like. And so some of the embellishments might tell the story, and then some of them might not. It's just wherever the creative process takes me. But in this particular case, I think that I consciously thought about the page and where I wanted it to go, and um, what the embellishments meant to the story. And so that was pretty neat, because I didn't need a lot. I didn't need much to help tell the story. And sometimes when you look at your photos, well, probably most times you look at your photos, you can see perhaps what the story is about and where the story is going. You can see the apprehension here in my daughter's face when she's looking out at the ocean, in the picture the profile picture of her on the left. She's actually looking out to the ocean and she's thinking about it, but she's not taking any steps toward it, but she's thinking hard about it. I don't always measure things either when I scrapbook. I kind of eyeball it, but for whatever reason, I measured this. I kind of wanted the center photo to be the same distance from the top as on the right as the photo on the left would be from the bottom. So I did I did measure those out. And I was kind of glad I did, because when I did it by eyeballing it, um, I don't know, it just seemed a little off a little bit for me. And with that said, I'm trying my best not to um, nitpick my layouts and like pick them apart and see what else do I need, so to speak. What I'd like to do is, of course, get as many of my photos into scrapbooks. That's the whole purpose of my doing these videos, because it makes me committed to a schedule of putting up videos and making my layouts, which is great. But at the same time, that creative process, I'm noticing more, I guess, since I've been doing this. I didn't really pay attention to it like off camera when I'm, scrapbooking and whatever, but now I find myself thinking more about that creative process, because I'm talking about it more. So I'm coming into the home stretch as I begin to lose my voice, but this layout has been pretty easy and a lot of fun. Um, did I tell you it was a lot of fun? Anyway, so when I get to this part of the layout, um, and scrapbooking as a whole is relaxing, but I relax more here because everything's coming together. Um, the layout is almost complete and I can move to the next one, so I'm excited. But it doesn't always work that way. Sometimes you get uh, to what you hope is the end of a layout and you just don't see it. I mean, for me, sometimes I'll get this far and I'm putting down embellishments and I don't see the end of the layout in sight. And whenever that happens to me, I get up and I walk away from a layout for a little bit, maybe go have a cup of tea or coffee or something and come back. Excuse me, I'm kind of losing my voice here. And that always helps. If I step away from something and come back and look at it, I'm refreshed, and I can go back to work on it. And if stepping away and having a cup of tea doesn't work, I'll even step outside for a few minutes. And stepping outside normally clears my head and I can come back and have fun again. Um, but the whole thing with scrapbooking, I guess because I'm talking about it more, I am looking at technique, which for me, I mean, I always think of, what style of scrapbooker you are, or I am, or I guess all the fun side. But now I'm looking at different types of tools and products, and what can I do? What can I do to push myself further than what I went the last time? It's kind of like running a race. Um, for me, running, I can only go so fast. But I'm not going to be doing a marathon. But with scrapbooking, yeah, I could do a marathon. I could just keep going, at least I believe I can, and push the envelope, because all the rules and that you have in scrapbooking. And I was talking about this to my husband earlier because he's an artist, and one of the things that he said that really stuck to me, because I asked him about technique in his art, and he said, and if there were any rules, and he said, well, there are rules, but if you break them, then you created a new rule or a new technique. So, all those rules and techniques, well, a lot of them can be broken. I mean, there's things that you have to do so that you don't ruin your work. If I'm putting paint on my paper, I might put gesso on first just to hopefully keep it from wrinkling. There's just certain techniques that one might follow. But as a whole, it's an experiment, and you can just sit back and enjoy the ride. And I know, like, my family sometimes thinks I am absolutely nuts when I talk about scrapbooking, but for me, it is the kind of art that I can sit back, relax, and create something that I know my family's going to enjoy, and it's going to be fun. But for someone who doesn't scrapbook and they're listening to scrapbookers talk, I used to be one of those people. I used to think they were nuts. How can they talk and like scrapbooking that much? How can you like anything that much? And there were things I liked that much, but I couldn't imagine it would be scrapbooking. But I think, now that I'm addicted, and I am addicted, you might not notice. Yeah, you might notice a little bit. It is the whole creative process from taking that picture of, for me, my family, a friend, a dog, anyone, or anything, and seeing what can I do with it? What can I turn this picture into? And that's what I love. I love the possibilities, the possibilities. And scrapbooking is full of possibilities. Um, and I think that's what makes it enjoyable, challenging, fun, creative, and so on. Anyway, definitely close to the home stretch here, and yes, I still like this layout a whole lot. It's one of my most favorite layouts I've done so far for my videos, and I can't wait to do the next one. And I think I said this before, but every layout I do or you do doesn't need to be huge or time consuming. It can be really short, sweet, and to the point. The object of scrapbooking, the main object, is putting your photos into those beautiful albums so you can really enjoy them. It's a lot more fun looking at your photos in an album than digging through a photo box for them. So if you haven't given it a shot, give it a try. So we're at the end, and I hope to see you next time. Thank you again for stopping by and taking a look at my work here. And I hope you continue to stop by and subscribe and like. And do leave comments and feedback. It's most appreciated. You have an awesome day.